Good morning. We're going to get started this morning with an invocation led by Father Stephen Bird of Epiphany of the Lord Catholic Church, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Lucy Harding of Girl Scouts Troop 577. Please stand.
Here and council members for all you do for our great city. So as we begin our prayer, I invite you to pray for a few moments in silence for each intention. For all the people of our community, we pray. For peace and harmony, we pray. For our family and friends, we pray. For the homeless in our community, we pray. For our local and national civic leaders, we pray. For our local and national religious leaders, we pray. For all those who have been or will be affected by Hurricanes Fiona and Ian, we pray. For migrants and refugees here in our country and throughout the world, fleeing violence, religious persecution, and economic difficulties, we pray. For all who work for the good of others, we pray. For an end to gun violence, we pray. For all who suffer pain, loss, and sorrow, we pray. And we continue. Blessed are you, Lord our God, maker of the universe and Father of all. Look with love on the people of this community and the people of our world. Keep them safe in your service. Guide the members of this council and be with them at all times. Help the members of this council to work together for the good of all. Bless their plans and deliberations and bring them to success. Reward them for the good they do. Blessed are you, Lord our God, forever and ever. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father, and thank you, Lucy. All right, I call this meeting of the City Council to order. First up is item 3, Office of the Mayor. We have item 3A. These are the inaugural appointments to the Human Rights Commission. I thank everybody on the council for getting me your appointments in a timely manner, and I believe we'll be able to position them to where they can meet soon. That'll be up to the board and the staff, how soon they can organize after today. But if there's no other comments or questions, we can...
I have comments and questions.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say I have a very grave concern about a particular appointment for this commission with people who do not support the Human Rights Commission whatsoever, as far as when we introduced it, when we've tried to pass it, and now being on this particular commission. I'm trying to understand how that makes sense, and for some reason I can't come up with a conclusion of how that is supposed to make sense for this Human Rights Commission. And the reason I'm very concerned about this is because we've already went through 2 years of work to bring it to pass, and we already had a council member decide that they wanted to disregard the task force and the hard work that they've done for those 2 years by the ordinance that was brought forward and then not supporting it. And now here we are with another who's going to be appointed to this particular commission. And I'm trying to understand, as far as the appointment, why this is so, and why as the presiding officer in the person who does these appointments that this was okay. And the reason I'm asking that is because I've asked for plenty of appointments for other commissions, boards, and trusts, and me personally have not been able to be appointed to any of those. So therefore, then we have someone who's not even in support of a commission, and now they're being appointed to the commission. Please make that make sense for me.
Well, in this particular commission, as the ordinance stated that was adopted by the council, every council member put forward their ward representative. So the only one I really have opinions on is mine, Valerie Couch, the at-large appointee. The others, you'd have to ask the council members individually. I don't. I just adopted, as I always have in the 4 years that I've been mayor, the recommendations for the specific ward seats that were given to me.
Mayor, I think we're going around in circles, because at the end of the day, these are still the appointments that you bring forward, whether or not we as the council members say this is who we want. And I'm pretty sure, even for myself, as I've asked for certain people or even certain situations to be brought to the forefront pertaining to boards, commissions, and trusts, I'm still waiting for a few of those those decisions to be approved and or made.
I want to be clear, when it's a ward-specific seat in 4 years, I have never declined to appoint the person that the council member has recommended, ever.
Well, again, I will not be supporting this hard work of 2 years for a person to be appointed to this commission that did not vote for it, the introduction, and did not support this particular commission to be established. And again, I have a concern with the fact that this has been brought forward and you're okay with that. That's just where I feel and how I feel about it, and I will not support it. I'm very proud of the people that worked 2 years to bring this to the forefront, and for my personal appointment, because of her being on that task force and bringing forth the recommendations and being a part of, and also the chair who will be with us, who was also a part of the task force. But for people who are on these particular task force or commissions who have no vested interest in this particular commission, I have a problem with, and I will not be supporting that.
Uh-oh. All right, are there any other comments or questions? All right, we can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 7-2, and again, they'll work with staff to organize their first meeting and kind of organize their general practices moving forward. And I thank all of the appointees for their willingness to serve, and congratulations on being the inaugural members of the Human Rights Commission. Item 4 is items from council. There is nothing today, so we'll advance to item 5, city manager reports. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple of presentations on this morning. First, we have the presentation of the CVB 2022 annual report, and Zach Craig, Executive Director for CVB, is here with us to make this presentation.
Well, good morning, Council. Good to be back in front of you again. As City Manager just mentioned, I'm here to officially submit our fiscal year 22 annual report. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to flip through it or not, but if you haven't, I just wanted to let you know what's inside. There's highlights from the fiscal year. There's our results from the scope of work that we submitted to you about 1.5 years ago that you'll be able to see. And then at the back of this, there's financial statements as well. I'm just going to give you a brief summary, just in my opinion, of some of the highlights that I'm really proud of the team at Visit OKC for doing over the fiscal year. You know, number one, that's redesigning visitokc.com, the website. Number two, it's launching a new attractions pass that serves residents and visitors digitally just by a swipe of a QR code. Number three, it's welcoming a slew of media in advance of our grand opening for the First Americans Museum. And really the aftermath of that, just getting some wonderful write-ups about our destination that was following that grand opening. And then lastly, a record-breaking year as far as convention sales in the convention center that we closed. Speaking of the convention center and sales, Councilman Stonecipher and I just had a brief discussion, but something new that we've been working on, and thanks to the councilman, is I've been working with Barbara Beaton at the convention center, as well as Sue Hollenbeck, to just create this one-page synopsis of convention activity. My plan is to update this for you each time I come and present. I'll let you read through it, but one item I wanted to highlight is that in the fiscal year, we welcomed approximately 178,000 attendees to our convention center. So excited about that, and I'll let you read through that. If you have any recommendations on this template, please phone me or email me. We'll be more than happy to make some adjustments. Now, I'd like to spend the rest of my time today speaking about something that I'm really excited about, and that's our fiscal 23 media plan. In my opinion, it's the most robust media plan that we've ever had as an organization, and thanks in large part to you all and to the tourism recovery monies that you deployed to us a few months ago. We're using those very wisely. And when I say that, some of the things that we're using those monies for that we've never been able to do is really what I call top funnel awareness generating marketing channels. And those include traditional commercials. Those include streaming devices and connected TV. Those also include placement before sporting events and after sporting events as well. I think, I'm a year and a half into my role. I think the greatest need for our destination right now is awareness. Awareness for what's here, and certainly awareness for what's forthcoming with MAPS 4 as well. And so thank you all for the support through the tourism recovery efforts. Now, I just want to mention real briefly about this media campaign that we're launching. We actually launched it yesterday. There's a variety of personas and visitor origin markets that we're targeting naturally, but we're also taking some of these resources and deploying them locally and regionally as well. And we're doing that for good reason, to continue to elevate really the pride that we have locally for the destination and generate awareness for all the new tourism assets that we have. Because we did that, we just concluded a resident sentiment survey, and I want to share just a few percentage points that I thought you would find interesting that the residents of Metro Oklahoma City said about tourism and the power of tourism. 81% of our residents said that the Modern Frontier campaign described Oklahoma City well. 72% agreed that tourism is important to our local economy, and 72% also agree that tourism creates jobs in Oklahoma City. 73% agree that tourism helps attract new residents to Oklahoma City as well. And so that's just a snippet of that resident sentiment survey. Be more than happy to share some of the rest of it with you as well. But with that said, I want to conclude my update today and just show you just a slice of one of the commercials that we've unveiled this week. It's called How I Was Raised. It's for that regional audience, and I hope you enjoy it.
I was raised to believe in the power of possibility, to always move forward but never forget where I came from, to value hard work, ingenuity, and hospitality. On one hand, my people are rough and rugged. On the other, refined and elegant. They taught me how to love beautiful things and cherish my past, to seek out adventure, eat well, and to have a good time. So I keep their traditions alive every place I go. They call me Oklahoma City, but you can call me the Modern Frontier.
So that concludes my presentation this morning. Be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mayor. Zach, I know your focus is on tourism and conventions, but do you all ever get involved, or do you ever look towards business-related publications to do any advertising, or can you direct any of your efforts towards what I would consider just general economic development, making, you know, Oklahoma City better known, say, to the outside business community?
I'll speak directly to our fiscal 23 budget as a whole. Currently, right now, we don't have those publications within the mix that we have right now. With that said, as a part of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce, I work hand in hand with Jeff Seymour and his team to really help with economic impact. You know, I'm not going to name a name, but there was a very well-known developer that was in market a few months ago, and I sat at the table with Jeff and really explained the destination to get this developer, and then the trickle-down effect is to get those workers excited about coming to Oklahoma City. And so I'm doing some of those initiatives, maybe in the future if money is there, Councilman.
Right. It seems it's an important consideration in any business relocation, is the community that their employees will be living in.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Zach, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mike Knopp with RIVERSPORT Foundation to give us a presentation on the quarterly update for RIVERSPORT.
Good morning. Dave, ready to go, Dave? Okay. All right. Well, we've had a very eventful summer with a lot of different activities going on, particularly in the realm of events, and then some of our new and really growing outreach initiatives. Go ahead and. So I'd like to start with a quick slide on expanding the reach, the RIVERSPORT reach. Thought it'd be fun to show you. We have had a number of different groups that have come to use our venue from a team building perspective. I think we have one of the premier team building opportunities of anywhere, of any city, to be able to take advantage of. So that's the University of Oklahoma football team with Brent Venables. And they came right before their season began, had a great time. They want to make that a tradition. They went rafting, surfing, and all the different activities. You see the streetcar, obviously, you know, promoting Red Bull Rapids. We had a very significant push on that event throughout town, and it was great to see that on the streetcar as well as many other places. And then finally, Times Square, with Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma doing some advertising on a screen there right in the center of Times Square, and you can see the RIVERSPORT promotion that's going on there. So a lot of great things to expand our reach. Go ahead and next slide. As far as a financial update is concerned, this is a quick snapshot. A few comments I would make. We've had one of the things that came about, as you all are aware, that in March we took on a major international event that was two events that were relocated from Russia, which was not in our budget. So we took that on, and you'll see later, I think it was very successful. But that created some new expense and some new opportunities for contributed support. We still are continuing to, you know, do our best to fundraise for RIVERSPORT and also promote upcoming activities to boost earned revenue in the off season. A couple notes about earned revenue. I think you are aware that we have obviously our operations here in the Boathouse District, but also at Lake Hefner and Lake Overholser. Unfortunately, at Lake Hefner, those operations were really put on hold for the entire season because the building there that we utilized was damaged in the early season, significant rainstorms. The ceiling caved in, so that really precluded any sort of activity there in terms of, and then same with Lake Overholser. Ironically, we had some other issues there getting started but nevertheless, Lake Overholser is operational now. We're hoping to get Hefner back into. We have a lot of requests about kayak rentals and sailing camps and that sort of thing. So that was a little bit of information in terms of our revenue side from earned revenue. And then like many of our counterparts in the in more of the attractions industry. The economy, I think, did have somewhat of an impact over the past few months. People not spending as much on entertainment, and we had some pretty significant heat. And you would think that's counterintuitive. You'd want to go get in the water, but when it was so hot, we found a lot of people just not wanting to get outside at all. But we did have some really great weekends around those times. But in the end, we're pleased with the year. You can see the reviews have been very strong, and we're looking forward to the next few months with many different programs and events planned. So go ahead. So Red Bull Rapids, as I'd mentioned, it was a great success. This was the first time that event had ever been hosted in North America. We had Red Bull executives here from around the world. In fact, the person that created Red Bull Rapids and had hosted the event in Europe and Australia was here and was just blown away by Oklahoma City and the venue. We had over 5,000 people in the venue. If you were there, you know it was totally packed in the island. It was really great to see the venue put to such unique use, I would say, and people had a really great time. There's a lot of interest in this coming back, and so we're working on what could that plan look like for next year. Next. And that same day was the World Paddle Sport Festival. As I'd mentioned, the events that were relocated from Moscow. You see the pictures there of the Ukrainian athletes. They couldn't have been more happy with their welcome here in Oklahoma City and the international broadcast that did occur. Go ahead in the next slide. They actually went surfing and did other activities as well beyond competing. Next slide. And then all of the activities with the World Paddle Sports Festival. You can see the athletes toured the First Americans Museum. We had the stand-up paddleboard racing, which is really unique to see in Oklahoma City. People from all over the world were tuning in for that, and really surprised the people that were here. Another great moment of affirmation for what we've done. Some of the top stand-up paddleboard athletes in the world. These are people that are, do many of their events on the coast, on the ocean, and they loved Oklahoma City. We had the World Party. We had Oklahoma City Public School students involved in the flag ceremony with all the athletes, which I thought was really fun and really neat. And all in all, the ICF was extremely pleased. The president of the ICF was here, and we're looking forward to more events in the future as a result. Go ahead, next slide. And then right after that, literally the next day, we had the Australian athletes passing the Australian Swiftwater Rescue team as they were coming in for the Swiftwater Rescue Conference that occurred for a week in RIVERSPORT Rapids. They had a very intensive program of training and classes that culminated in an event, a first ever Swiftwater Rescue Championship that is being edited for broadcast right now, and that is a very unique event where they competed in the skills that they were really working on to save lives. And first responders from all over America, and as I mentioned, Australia, were here. So, next slide. And then Thrive Outside 2020 events. We've had many different, we couldn't list them all here, but some of the highlights. We did a lot with Team River Runner this year with working with disabled veterans, a kayak football league now. We have working with Mom and Me with the Oklahoma City Parks and Recreation. And then the River Bowl I thought was a really great highlight. We had the Oklahoma City Black Alumni Coalition came together and put together this event where alumni from all of the historically black high schools in Northeast Oklahoma City came out and they competed in dragon boating and rowing. Just a really great community building event. They really had a great time, a lot of great feedback. That's going to be a new tradition for the community, and I think it's one more way to make inroads into the community, and actually now they're working with us and bringing the kids into the program. And then we had kids that were in our summer camps and our outreach initiatives that actually got to participate in the Super Cup and the World Cup as preliminary events, which is really fun for them to be on the water while the Olympians were there. Go ahead and move on. And then further on Thrive Outside, we had over 440 campers that were on free. They got to come camp for free over the summer, come to our camps, And then we've expanded our partners. You can see the list there from Boys and Girls Club to Native American Student Services and many others. And then we had 903 youth that came on free field trips to RIVERSPORT through different initiatives that we had. And that looks like that's going to be expanding for next year with some new partners that we're bringing in for that. You can see the field trip partners there, and then we have a youth kayak league. We're working with John Rex, and that the kids actually are coming out and coming to the boathouse and on a kayak team, as well as all of our youth outreach programs that have started, our youth league in rowing. And we will have the World Paddle Sport, we're going to have the Thrive Outside Day coming forward in October, which we'll talk about here real briefly in a second. Go ahead and move on. Upcoming promotions, well, this weekend is the next big event, the Oklahoma Regatta Festival. I just looked at the registration. We have 50 teams from across America coming, so this will bring a lot of people to Oklahoma City, college, universities, high schools, that will be showing up on really Thursday and Friday, racing over the weekend. We have a new promotion called Team Up in Oklahoma City. Again, like I'd mentioned with the University of Oklahoma football program, this regatta is early in the collegiate season, so why not use it as a place to build your team, which, as I've said, contributes to speed as much as anything else when you can work together. And so athletes will get to actually go surfing and do other things that they can only do in Oklahoma City. So that'll be fun. And then we're going to have several other, the night racing is always a very popular event. In fact, I had a guy the other day told me, I bought a boat from somebody in England, and is a famous boat builder, and he said, yeah, you're the place that does night racing. I mean, we are really well known all over the world for that. So we're really leaning into that with some pyrotechnics this year that will go along with the racing. Go ahead, next slide. And then further activities into October, we have the Thrive Outside Day. You can see the list of events. Biketober, we will be having a BMX race on our pump track, and also we'll be announcing plans for our bike park expansion. We've mentioned before we've had some grants that were going to allow us to do some really great things and embrace the fact that this will be a very special trailhead for Oklahoma City as our trail system continues to expand eastward. And then Dogtober, football and cornhole. So we're preparing again for Barquet to be opening in early January. We continue to have events with them. We're going to have Sup with Your Pup and what we call the Puppy Bowl, along with, we have a new Jumbotron in the Whitewater Center, thanks to OG&E as a partner for that. And we'll be showing football games and having a cornhole tournament. So again, more activities to kind of bring in activity in the off-season period. And I don't have a slide here, but we're also working on Winter Glow and bringing back the Holiday Boat Parade, which will be in early December. So that's all I have. If there's any questions from you.
I know the last 60 to 90 days has been really crazy for you, but the Red Bull, the paddle sports, and the rescue conference has been outstanding, and I want to congratulate you on the publicity you have given us locally, regionally, and in this instance, globally. It's been outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great.
And I'll reiterate, because I know for the Red Bull Rapids, I was there, and it was people everywhere. And that speaks to the fact of what it is as far as the brand of Red Bull and what it brings. And clearly it brings followers. And I know you didn't mention this, but I think it's important, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, to say that this also will be shown across the country as far as it being recorded and viewed across the country for people to see more about Oklahoma City and what we have to offer. And then I came Friday night for the global party. Yeah. And that was unbelievable just to see all of those countries that were represented right here in our great city. And I flew back, I think that was the day we flew back from our trip from Milwaukee, and some of the folks from Ukraine were actually on our plane traveling back. I didn't realize that's why they were here, but clearly they came to be a part of what we were doing for our city. So again, great work, and especially with the River Bowl, I've heard nothing but great things and people wanting to get out and understand as far as folks who have never been a part of the river, to say, how can we get involved and how can we be out there in that water? So very grateful for the work that you all are doing as far as the inclusivity, and especially for our young people that have never had a chance to experience these great things. Now they can do that. So thank you all for being very committed to making sure you're ever evolving in the way to make this better for our city and in our nation and internationally.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and thank you for all your support. Really been great. So.
Thank you,
And
Mike.
Red Bull is a viral video making machine, so it is really all over. So yeah, it's going to be continued to be presented all over their media streams. So thank you.
It's been an exciting year, Mike. Thank you very much.
The only other thing I have is the September sales and use tax report, another very strong month for sales tax, 10% growth for the month. On the year, we're at about 8.5% growth. On use tax, it was 21% growth, and for the year at about 9% growth. Overall, about $8 million over target. So really strong start to the year. We'll keep monitoring that and keep you updated. We'll likely be coming back with some changes that we've made with budget amendment that may use a portion of this, but we still want to evaluate and just see the path that we're on right now with our revenues. So really good start to the year.
Craig, the graph down at the bottom of that first page, that's reflects the percentage growth, say, from July of 21 to July of 20?
Right.
Okay. And then it just carries on?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, you're done with
Yep,
city manager
that's
reports?
finished. Yep.
Okay. That brings us to item 6, Journal of Council Proceedings. We have a resident who has signed up to speak, Michael Washington.
Greetings, large-stress horseshoe guests of mine. That's right, I call you a guest because this belongs to me, bottom line. 2900 Northeast 18th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73111, 3 and 1s on the back of it. Now then, we move or proceed to 6A, receive Journal of Council Proceedings for September 13, 2022. Now, do I have to speak on both of them together, Mayor, or how do I do it? Just okay, that's what I just wanted. Thank you. Receive Journal Entry of Council Proceedings for September 13, 2022. B, approve Journal of Council Proceedings for August 30, 2022. Now, since I need y'all to kind of enlighten me here, because I usually don't travel into this area of writings that y'all put in for your various programs and events and things. But I would like to know, you don't have to answer that right now, just a question mark I could probably have answered later on by my own investigations, but I'm just going to take advantage of the opportunity to let everybody know what my mindset is. Now, to receive Journal Council Proceedings for September 13, 20, I presume this is a process by which do y'all discuss it, strike things out, add to it? How does that work? You don't have to answer now. I know you normally don't. However, this is a question in my mind. Now, then it says to approve of Journal Council Proceedings for August 30th. That'll be a month before. Now, what process does that take? Does that come before your committee too? I mean, is that done by a secretary? Is that done by the city manager? How does that work as well? Now, the reason why I ask that as well, because there are going to be times now, and I think I'm not going to allow this discrimination to continue any further. I will be doing an asking as a public citizen for my right to do presentations like everybody else, as a local nonprofit agency, right? I have also measures that could possibly help resolve gang violence or whatever the case may be, right? So I have to be heard as a city council who can approve of measures, right? Things that goes on, am I correct? So I would like to know again, I'll probably get with the councilwoman here, how those journal proceedings are brought to fruition and finally finalized with a conclusive mark to it.
30 seconds, please.
30 seconds. Oh, my God, every time I get started again. Now, in closing, I do need to sit down with someone, and I will be presented. See, I don't know what y'all might ask some stuff in it I wasn't even here about, don't know about. So I need to find out. I don't know, Schwarzenegger said, I'll be back.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the journals? We can take items A and B with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item 7, request for uncontested continuances. There are quite a few listed here. Item 11A, 11E, 11G, 11H, 11I, 11X1 and 2, and 11AC 1 and 2 are all requested to be deferred. Mr. City Manager, what else do you have?
Yes, starting on page 17, we have item 11Q1 under dilapidated structures. This item will be stricken from the agenda. It's item A, 1740 Northwest 1st Street. We need to re-notify for a new owner. Then again on page 17, item 11R1, unsecured structures. These will all be stricken from the agenda. Item B, 1813 Peachtree Street. Owner is secured. Item E, 1740 Northwest 1st Street to re-notify for a new owner. Item L, 3217 Southwest 46th Street. The owner is secured. And item M, 2501 Southeast 47th Street. The owner is secured. Then on page 18, item 11S1, abandoned buildings. All of these items will be stricken from the agenda. Item A, 1813 Peach Street. Item B, 1740 Northwest 1st Street. Item J, 3217 Southwest 46th Street. And item K, 2501 Southeast 47th Street. And that's all the items that we have.
All right. That means we'll move to item 8, revocable permits and events. Item A is a revocable permit with the Oklahoma City Museum of Art for Art on Tap on October 7th here by City Hall on Couch Drive. And we do have Sarah Wise, who has signed up to speak.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Wise, the Museum of Art at 415 Couch Drive. Your neighbors right across the street. I'm here to talk about Art on Tap. It's our annual beer tasting fundraiser that helps us raise funds for our programs and exhibitions. It's going to take place on Friday, October 7th from 7 to 10 p.m. It's usually held inside the museum for the last 17 years. Last year, due to the pandemic, we ended up moving it outside to become an outdoor block party concept. And our guests absolutely loved it, so we wanted to continue that tradition as an outdoor block party concept. We have partnered with local breweries, we have light bites and live music, and we're just really excited for our event this year.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hammond?
Yeah, it seems like the weather is becoming more agreeable for this type of event, so excited to see it happening, kind of activating that street outside a little bit more, so I'll move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Have a great event. Item 8B is revocable right-of-way use permit with Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorders Association to hold the Walk to End Alzheimer's on October 22nd on South Robinson. And we don't have anyone signed up to speak. Council members Hammond and Nice.
I think we have somebody coming.
Oh, maybe we do. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Hogner, and I'm the manager for the Oklahoma City Walk to End Alzheimer's. Our event is going to take place on Saturday, October 22nd this year at Scissortail Park. This is the second year that we've been there, and it's such a great space for our event. I don't know if anybody on the council or with the city has ever been to that event, but last year our guesstimation from Scissortail Park and OKCPD was between 5,000 and 6,000 people. In 2019, our last normal year, we had between 9,000 and 10,000 across the street at Bicentennial Park, so we're hoping to get those numbers back up this year. Our party starts at 8:30 this year. Our walk ceremony starts at 10, and our walk starts immediately after. We're so excited because our new route is going to take us along the perimeter of the new Scissortail Park expansion, and all of our participants are looking forward to that. So I would invite all you guys out. If you're not sure what that event raises funds for, it goes towards the care and support services that we provide to actual families all across the state of Oklahoma.
Great.
Well, I'll say, I also hope that we get those numbers up to continue to bring awareness to Alzheimer's disease and related disorders. And very, very happy to support, and I know I speak for Councilwoman Hammond and I understand Councilmember Carter also, this is near and dear to him as well.
Yes, ma'am. My company, as well as our family, has supported this walk for a number of years now, and the inaugural one at Scissortail last year. I would go with the 6,000 people that showed up last year. It was great. I encourage anybody to come out and be a part of it and hear the stories of not only what this organization has done for the families, but just how they continue to come back together even after they've lost those family members and support others. It's a great event.
Thank you for that. So with that, I'll move for approval.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. On this item? Oh, okay. Michael Washington.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to compliment. I mean, in my ward now, I love things that's being done. Again, ma'am, thank you for that. I hadn't, naturally, I'm when you talk about Alzheimer's, when you talk about dementia, when you talk about it affecting communities, families, and lives and individuals, that is what I'm all about. And I support anything like this 150 times. Matter of fact, you can wake me up out of my sleep, and I'm not just joking to get jokes and laugh, because this is a very serious thing. Alzheimer's causes people homelessness. Alzheimer's causes people to do crimes. Alzheimer's causes people to not even realize today from day to the next. And I didn't, as a matter of fact, I did actually know about this little run or talk or walk or whatever they're talking about doing, but let me tell you what, this is a great thing. You're never going to get an argument from me. And if I can, let me tell you something, if I can help out in any manner, this is a very serious thing. I have some people in my family with Alzheimer's. That's right. Dementia. Matter of fact, I was taking care of a patient who deeply embedded into the dementia state. And I was deeply touched by it. So, I mean, man, when you can talk about helping people who has a mental disease that they may not necessarily be able to control, I mean, wow, you know. In other words, we're a society that's supposed to be helping people like that. That's why I'm so compassionate about whatever I do, whether it's jailhouse or whatever, you know, because I love people, whether preserving the Freedom Center, our children, whatever the case is. Alzheimer's is great. Ma'am, thank you. And I don't know if my old legs will hold up, but I might try to walk that trail with y'all. Thank you.
All right, we've got an open vote here for the item B. Passes unanimously. Item 8C is a revocable right-of-way use permit with Old Capitol Hill Council, Inc. to hold Fiestas de las Americas on October 1st on Southwest 25th Street. No one has signed up to speak, but Gloria is here. Go ahead.
Good morning. I forget how to do this every year. We only do it every year. Thank you for acknowledging me. This is our 17th annual celebration. We're very excited. This year we have nearly doubled every area. We have over 120 booths. We have over 85 entries into the parade. But the most exciting part, I think, is we have moved our parade route to actually line up at Scissortail Park. At the lower park, we had the ribbon cutting last week, and this week we're bringing all of the parade entries to line up there and get started, and we hope to bring more attention both to the parade and to the lower Scissortail Park. We're very excited, and please expect your invitations in your emails, hopefully by the end of today. I think all of you know you're invited even without an email, but please know you will be receiving an email. We'd love to have you, each and every one of you there. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions? Well, I'm excited for the event. We've got Councilwoman Hammond and Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it continue to grow so much. And Councilwoman, do you have anything you wanted to mention?
I just want to say I'm sad because I didn't get invited to be a part this year, but it's all good. I'm still coming to support, but I'm very grateful for the work that you all do for our communities, especially this is one of my favorite events. to be a part of and to see, because you just see families and friends and just people just experiencing fun. So very grateful that you all are doing this another year. So I'll be there.
We love Councilwoman Nice. In case you didn't know, Councilwoman has been our MC for the for the Parade of the Americas for the past 3 years. Yes. And so this year we have the KOCO morning crew. When sponsors step up, you kind of...
I can't compete with that, so it's all good. Thank you, though. No, I'm just giving you a hard
Thank
time.
you. We look forward to having you there as always.
And with that, we'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Almost. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we have item D, revocable right-of-way use permit with Plaza District Chamber of Commerce to hold the Plaza District Festival on October 1st on Northwest 16th Street. We have Rachel Leonhardt and Joel Parks signed up to speak, and I would add, I can't believe I have to say this, but no, I did not actually get the Plaza Fest tattooed on my arm.
Mayor, thanks for being a great sport. Good morning. I'm Rachel Leonhardt, Executive Director with the Plaza District. My colleague and I would say person doing most of the festival producing, Joel Parks, Director of Marketing and Programming, is with me. Thank you for your time this morning. This is our 23rd annual Plaza District Festival. What I'm most proud of this year is the comeback that the Plaza District has made. Last year, when you granted us permission to have this festival, it was the most successful day for our businesses. Over 50 businesses in our arts and culture commercial district reported that it was their best sales revenue day in the last 2 years, most successful Plaza Fest in over a decade. This year, what we plan to do is drive more people to the district with increased family programming. We'll have Ghostbusters out, we'll have OU Pick and Hammer, cracking open geodes. Just the little details make a really big impact. We have on our entertainment stages a partnership with ACM at UCO for a stage full of entertainment with alum and current students. We also have increased our entertainment budget. Our overall budget, we kept the same, but we increased the entertainment budget by about 500%. And we were able to do that through a lot of in-kind partnerships for things that otherwise would cost us a significant amount of money. The importance of driving more payment to artists and creators is that it draws national attention. In the past years since I stood and spoke here with you, we've had a dance festival I think is important to know. And in doing all this for our arts and culture district in Oklahoma City, it drives a significant amount of press publicity. We've been featured by Bon Appetit magazine, New York Times, Condé Nast Traveler, Thrillist, BuzzFeed, and many other publications worldwide. So we anticipate right now the Facebook event is pacing at about 23,000 RSVPs. We hope to have around 30,000 in attendance traditionally. It coincides with the Plaza Walls Mural Expo. As many of you know, USA Today has put Oklahoma City on the map 2 years in a row for best city in the country for street art. All of this is thanks to October 1st and what we're doing. So thank you very much for your support, and we hope to see you all there.
Thank you, Rachel. Councilwoman Hammond?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that increase in the investment in the artists and the creators. As I do every year, I will make my plea to folks coming to visit, those 30,000 folks, to as much as they are able to walk, scooter, bike, take the bus. Because, you know, I do hear from the neighborhoods nearby that sometimes there's maybe not great parking etiquette of automobiles that happens in those neighborhoods. So if you are driving, you know, please be mindful of people's driveways and parking on the correct side of the street so that emergency vehicles can continue to get through. But if you are close by, you know, taking that extra effort to, you know, enjoy the walk, enjoy the scooter, bike ride, et cetera, just to make more opportunity for folks that are coming from farther away to be able to drive, because it is such a great event, and we want to make sure that you know, it continues to be successful, but that we are also mindful of those neighborhoods and some of the other stuff that has to continue in the midst of all the celebrations. So looking forward to attending, and I will move for approval.
I have one question real quick. I was down there, I think, last week, and there were some construction signs. How's that going? Is it going to impact the event in any form or fashion?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So construction's pacing ahead of schedule. Tomorrow we'll have cleanup, so 16th Street will be entirely open, and we won't have any cones out or issues. My concern was when I saw the construction on 39th Street and attended Pride, I was seeing folks kind of dealing with maybe not seeing where holes were and things like that. So from the very start, when the project began on July 21st, it took about 2 years of conversations leading up to this. I said we cannot have what we saw on 39th Street happening in the Plaza District or any other district during a large festival. So the team, Mike Clark and Rudy Construction, have been absolutely incredible to work with. Highly recommend working with them any chance you get, and it'll be clear for Plaza Fest. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And Councilperson Hammond, the partnership we have with REI is pretty cool. We're doing a bike valet for the second year in a row. It was really popular last year. It'll be located on Gatewood between 16th and 17th. Definitely, if you're riding your bike, take advantage of that.
All right, no other questions? We can take a motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Have a great event.
Thank you.
All right, item 8E is a revocable right-of-way use permit with VI Marketing and Branding to hold Carne Diem on October 21st on Park Avenue, and Brandy Davis has signed up to speak.
Hello, thank you for having me here. I am Brandy Davis. I am an event planner that VI Marketing and Branding has brought on to help with this event. This is the 20th anniversary of this block party style chili cook-off competition, and it is a fundraiser that they hold in honor of United Way of Central Oklahoma. So we're really excited about doing this for the 20th year. We're really also excited that we get to bring it back to Park Avenue between Broadway and Robinson. COVID kind of shut it down for a little bit, and then the construction on Park Avenue moved it to Kerr Park. But it is really exciting to just be back in the original location, hopefully having more guests. We're trying to bring in more people, and the restaurants are excited to be back as well. Last year, we made it a little private just because the restaurants were still trying to come back. But this year, everyone is really excited. We're trying to bring in more food truck participants, and it is just a really fun block party style event with a rock and roll theme this year. Any questions?
Thank you. If there's no questions, Councilwoman Hammond?
Yeah, no, this very busy month in Ward 6 and downtown. Really excited to see all these different streets being activated, so I'll move for approval.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through L. We could take with one motion. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have items A through F we could take with one motion. I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we'll adjourn OCPPA and reconvene as the council, where we are on page 4 of your printed agenda, item 9, the consent docket. There are no scheduled presentations, so are there any items that a council member wishes to pull out for comment, question, or a separate vote? Hearing none, we have a citizen who has signed up to speak on item 9D1, Michael Washington.
Well, thank y'all again. Well, now, Wade Gall, are you looking at me, boy? We do not need for you no-good savages to have the state or city giving you nothing, boy. You understand me? That's right, sucker, these muscle bounds. I'm talking to you. Now then. That go for you and them sorry, no-good, stinking dogs of the Spring Lake Division of Oklahoma City Police Department. Don't get me wrong, folks. I don't have a problem with police in and of themselves. We all need them. But when you got skunks, snakes, and dogs who stand up and deliberately, knowingly, and recklessly violate the citizens' right, to hell with you, boy, and wherever you come from. I respect your mother and family. Other than that, you are nothing to me, boy. Listen at me. Now then. Make them buy their own doggone uniforms. That's what you do. That's right, boy. If you don't like it, I'm ready for you to arrest me after this is over with, boy, because you know I ain't scared of you. You're your damn jail. Now then. That's right. Now, let me twiggle and tangle it here. That's right. Let these people buy their own uniforms. Since they're a band of misfits, maybe that can be an exception to some people, some police officers. All of them are not bad. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had some I've got great rapport with. You understand me? But I'm not going to allow this white supremacist go in, kill my brother in the county jail, go in there with a hit, like it's some damn Don Dada, some goddamn hitman mafia stuff. That's right, boy, look at this face nicely. Yeah. Let them people buy their own stuff. They're not a part of us. They're a part of my animalistic trend. That's right. I don't bite my tongue. I'm going to handle it every time in 24 hours a day, wherever I go, as we know that by now. That's right. That's the reason why I said, and the connection is, they don't get nothing. Don't approve nothing for these suckers. Let them buy their own uniforms, spend their own money. And by doing so, maybe they'll start acting with sense and respectability for people.
30 seconds, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, they don't need police uniforms, accessories, or nothing that belong to them. What they need is get this no good behind and that Spring Lake Division, them sissies over there. That's right, men. I'm not talking about the women. I'm talking about male sissies over there. Y'all need to get on the good foot, baby, because I'll be back. Like I said, have a great one.
David Landbar. I could be it's tough to read the handwriting. Landbar for the stockyards?
Not on the consent, I'm sorry. I wrote down the wrong number.
11L?
Yes.
Regarding construction equipment contract?
No, 11. Yeah, 11.
Oh, 11. Oh, I'm
Public
sorry.
hearing. Sorry.
All right.
Wrote down the
We'll
wrong
come back
number.
to you then. All right. Thank you. Okay, that's all then for the consent docket. If there's no item that anybody wants to pull out, we can take a motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. That brings us to the concurrence docket, item 10. We have items A through V we could take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Are we waiting on somebody? Ward 1? How would you like to vote? Just say it. Yes. Passes unanimously. All right, item 11 is items requiring separate votes. Item 11A was deferred. 11B is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval at 2644 Northwest 57th, going from R1 to SPUD 1426. Councilman Cooper, no one has signed up to speak.
Is anyone here representing them? Thank you. Hi, Mark.
Good morning. Mark Zitzow with Johnson & Associates. Address is 1 East Sheridan Avenue. This is an application for the redevelopment of a property to allow for 3 single-family homes to be constructed, as you can see here. We had a recommendation from staff. Planning Commission unanimously supported the application. We did have our adjacent neighbor to the east show up. What they wanted to confirm was that the new homes that would be put back would fall in line with the existing sight line of the block, which is notated in the SPUD. So with that, be happy to answer any other questions.
And then I believe the sidewalks are going to be there, and you all were able to work with staff and the neighbor to help make sure that the development kind of speaks complements to the existing, structure, but it's going to be a bit different than what we've seen there traditionally in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So there are existing sidewalks along 57th. New sidewalks will go in along Miller. This home builder actually did a project about a block away that appears to be have been favored by the neighborhood. That's actually how they got in contact with the current owners of this property when they were looking to sell. About a block away are similar 1.5 story homes, and so all of that's been kind of reflected. We also have the contact information of our neighbor, so as we move forward with construction, we'll be in communication with them.
Well, I just, as always, Mark, appreciate whenever you or any developers in a conversation with the neighborhood that you are and working together and hearing their voices as you did, and even made the changes, I think, in some ways that spoke to their concerns. So I just really appreciate you, and I would just move for approval. Oh, you're not. I did. It's the screen now.
What's that, I'm sorry? Oh, yes,
I said it.
you want to move. There we go. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, 11C. First we have C1, amending the master design statement for the item, and then C2 is the item itself, which is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval at 325 North Cemetery Road, going from PUD 1071 to SPUD 1428. Councilwoman Young.
Thank you, Mayor. Having no objections, I'll move for approval.
And I'm going to take that as a motion to amend the master design statement. Oh, I'm sorry, we have somebody opposing. Let me call that person forward. Justin Martin.
Hi, Mayor. Council, thanks for having me. My name is Justin Martin. I live in Ward 3. I live at 316 Land Run Lane in the Settlers Ridge Edition. That's at the corner of Cemetery Road and Reno. I'm here to discuss SPUD 1428. I, among other neighbors, had sent formal protests to the Planning Commission and also to the council, our council member. I was unable to attend the Planning Commission, unfortunately, last month. Of course, this proposal is to rezone that area to R2 for a residential development. Couple of concerns I know I have and other neighbors is traffic issues. South Cemetery Road already faces many traffic issues. This is very evident if you happen to drive down South Cemetery Road on a Wednesday evening or a Sunday afternoon, and we have to have Canadian County deputies or Oklahoma City police officers directing traffic to control issues and control the safety of the area. We already see numerous vehicles running through our neighborhood now because of neighborhoods to the west and to the south to try to deviate around some of these issues, and this is going to just compound those. I see this a lot because of where I live at Land Run Lane and John Wedman Boulevard. We're kind of one of the main thoroughfares through the neighborhood. See a lot of traffic coming through that definitely does not, eye the speed limit, definitely doesn't eye concerns for neighbors, children playing in the area. I know there's a 2017 bond issue that's passed to hopefully bring improvements to this stretch of road, but we have yet to see any of those come to fruition. The second one is, of course, I'm a homeowner. I worry about property values in the area. This proposed development is directly in front of the entrance to our neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that does pose 400,000 plus valued homes on average. It is also directly adjacent to a gated community to the north. I know there's a push for multi-use housing in the area if it seems necessary. The development being proposed here is for duplex units in the area, which me and several other neighbors don't see that as kind of fitting that multi-use housing in the area. Plus, we have no way of knowing if this is going to become some type of income-based or low-income area that, maybe doesn't start out that way, but could pose that way to fill these units. We also concerned too, because there are several other plots right adjacent to this that could also be purchased, rezoned for the same use. These are some of the concerns that we have. We have others, but basically just asking for you to take another look at this, leave the zoning in its intended use, which is like some light commercial, neighborhood commercial zoning. We appreciate your service. Thanks for your time and your consideration. Just hope that you will keep it zoned the way it is and not rezone to the residential area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Mark, can we talk a little bit about what accommodations have been made through the process to date?
Sure. Mark Zitzow with Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. The week before our first Planning Commission meeting, we received protest letters. We set up a virtual neighborhood meeting. We met with the neighbors, and we continued that item to another Planning Commission, so we had time to work through these items. There were multiple concerns, rental housing, price of the units, that they were duplexes. Ultimately, those weren't items that we were really able to address through the SPUD, but some of the items that did come up were traffic. We researched that, worked with staff. Cemetery Road is a funded bond project to get widened. I believe that will go under design, maybe staff can correct me, in January of 2023. And I think the goal was under construction by 2024. We have about 12 months of design and approvals before any homes could be constructed on this. Within the SPUD, what we did was we increased the number of street trees. So we're putting trees on 30-foot centers. Part of the concern was what this neighborhood may look like driving into other neighborhoods. We recognize that 3rd Street is the kind of their gateway. So what we did was we included some screening language, fencing, and also ensured that there would be sidewalks and pedestrian connections east, west, and north, south to enhance that area and make sure that it was something that this neighborhood would be proud of, but also the neighborhood to our west and to the north. With those changes, we had a recommendation from staff, and Planning Commission ultimately recommended approval. This is a fairly small property. It's only 3.7 acres. And so there's 19 total lots, duplex lots, that are proposed here. Our client does not own the property to the south. That will remain in the PUD. That would be those light office, commercial, and personal storage units. One of the other things that came up and what is reflected in the amended design statement is our access configuration. The residents to the west and to the north had concerns about our traffic going north to 3rd Street. What we've agreed to is that we will put our access wherever Planning Commission determines is best. So what's reflected in the design statement are 2 site plans. One takes our access out to Cemetery with a stub street to the south. The other design statement will show an access to the north to 3rd Street and to the south. Ultimately, our client is willing to put that access wherever the city determines is the most appropriate. I think the residents had concern about them going out north. We do meet site distance on Cemetery Road. So again, we've reflected that in here that we'll do either or when we get to the platting stage, and that'll be determined by the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Is staff available to comment on the schedule for Cemetery Road improvements?
Jeff Butler, Planning Director. I believe those years are correct. However, it's subject to change. We can confirm that and get back with council. But anytime, the website would say 2023, 2024. It's possible that it may vary a little bit depending on Public Works and their construction schedules.
Well, staff's aware of my opinion of the need for the work on Cemetery Road, so I'll just continue to reiterate that with regards to our residents and the safety of getting in and out onto that state highway. So I do want the residents of Ward 3 to know that I've really looked into this particular area in particular. I don't live far from here. I drive this stretch of road going into Yukon all the time. But at the end of the day, I believe that the applicant's design and all of their efforts so far meet the requirements of the city, and I would hate for it to go to district court to make it happen. So with that, I will still move for approval, or whatever you said. I
Move to amend the master design statement.
Thank you.
And then you'll move for approval after that. So this is a motion for item 11C1. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And now, Councilwoman Young?
Then I'll move to approve the ordinance.
Got it. This is a motion for 11C2, approving the ordinance. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, 11D is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval at 13500 Piedmont Road, going from PUD 1256 to SPUD 1435. And Councilman Carter, no one has signed up to speak.
Seeing that there's no protests and it's been recommended, I will also recommend for approval. I'm sorry, did you?
Oh, I was going to say, Steve Landes Engineering, put this together. It's got a small C1 commercial at the front corner for their offices, the actual developers here as well with Capital Homes. Other than that, we would seek approval. Thank you.
By the way, when your council member's already moved for approval, just go with it, man.
We can bring it back and talk if you'd like.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11E is deferred, which brings us to 11F, an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval at 1135 North Portland and 3706 Northwest 11th, going from R1 to SPUD 1438. Councilwoman Young.
Did anybody sign up to speak?
No.
All right, well, seeing no protests and planning a commission move also recommended for approval, I will also.
Okay. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item G is deferred. Item H is deferred. Item I is deferred, which brings us to item 11J. This is there's no presentation here. First, we have a public hearing regarding the assessment roll for the Downtown Business Improvement District. Has anyone signed up to speak? They have, as a matter of fact. Several people. Okay. Heather Scott?
Good morning. Heather Scott, 4211 South Post Road, Oklahoma City. Excuse me. I like raced over here. You guys are running through that agenda today. Sorry. Good morning. I serve as the chairperson of the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Board, and I'd like to speak in support of items 11, J, and K. Specifically, through the Downtown Business Improvement District, we have a green team that cleans various areas throughout our district. They do that by walking and driving throughout our district. They pick up trash, they vacuum block facings, they also remove graffiti. In the 6 months from March to August, 7,100 block faces were vacuumed, 15 instances of graffiti were removed, and 4,700 bags of trash were collected. And that graffiti is removed. You might have seen them. They're out there with a power washer and or just scrubbing by hand. So what we're noticing is that as those things are removed, they're coming back less often as well, because we're so quick to get them removed through these services that people are realizing that it doesn't do any good. They're only there for a day or two. So in addition, through this service, we've hired a homeless outreach coordinator. And that person, her name is Tiffany. She's only been with us a couple of months, but statistics show us that it takes dozens of interactions with unhoused individuals to, in fact, gain a level of trust with them, to break down and understand what their barriers to housing might be. And so Tiffany's out there in our community, just another cog in our wheel, if you will, just helping to get to know these individuals, our unhoused neighbors, and trying to provide housing for them. And I'm really proud to report she's only been with the team, the Green Team, for a couple of months, and she's worked with some of our community partners already to gain housing for at least 2 individuals. Now, that statistic I heard a couple of weeks ago, or that
You have 30
number, and so I'm
seconds
sure it's
remaining.
even more than that. And so we're super proud of that addition to the services this year specifically that we're providing. So we believe that through the Downtown Business Improvement District, through the assessments that we assess ourselves and pay as ratepayers, that this is much needed services within our community and doing a great work here in our area. And thank you very much for your support of those items.
Thank you. Tracy Walton?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us today. I'm Tracy Walton. I co-own a business, Plenty Mercantile, in Automobile Alley. We've been there for 10 years. I also reside in Automobile Alley. And I wanted to voice my support for the bid. I'm also, I get to serve on the Automobile Alley board. I also get to serve on the bid board. I've watched the process from the beginning. It has incredible impact on our retailers downtown. There is absolutely no way that a small business owner, retailer could put together the activation that DOKC allows. Lights on Broadway in December boosts our revenue. We hockey stick, and it is a direct impact from Lights on Broadway. The bid is essential. It's essential to people enjoying working downtown and living downtown. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. David Wanzer.
Good morning. David Wanzer, 4600 Memory Lane. I have served on the bid board for, 7 or 8 years as a member representing what was Film Row and which now has been changed to West Village District. I'm also the chair of the current West Village District Board of Directors, and I'm a ratepayer into the bid through several properties that my company Pivot has redeveloped throughout the bid district. And I'm here to voice my support of these 2 items. The previous folks have taken most of my talking points, so I won't repeat anything, but I'll tell a little quick anecdote. I had 2 friends, good friends, come up from Dallas for Pearl Jam last weekend. They stayed at the National. They got here early. They walked around downtown. We met them for dinner. They stuck around the next day, walked around the park, Murray Gardens, and they texted me and they said, "I cannot believe how clean and safe Oklahoma City is." And that is a direct response to what the bid does for our city. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, that concludes those who have signed up to speak under the public hearing. So we can advance to J2, which is the resolution adopting and confirming an assessment role. Yep. Oh.
Sorry. Late attendee on the bid. Billy Lewis, 420 Northwest 6th.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry, Mayor Holt. I've been a ratepayer. My business is there. I own a building. My tenant there. And actually, for a time being, I actually lived in the rate as well during this bid. I've been part of the bid board for the last couple of years. Jane and Fee and everyone at Heather's done an amazing job. I've invested in downtown Oklahoma City. Got other projects I'm working with clients down, and everybody who's come in contact with this bid since it started has been impressed. The work they do, the time and effort that I see all these people put in every day. We really work for downtown. This has been great. The new Green Team has been fabulous for us. We've got we're trying to help with a homeless outreach specialist that the Green Team's brought up. It does everything that you want out of a big city downtown, and I couldn't be more supportive. I don't want to take up much of your time. I'm sure they've said it much more eloquent than me, but I am in full support of this bid being reconfirmed and have been so happy and blessed to be a part of it, and just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, now we will advance to J2, resolution adopting and confirming an assessment roll for the years 2022, 2023 for the Downtown Business Improvement District, et cetera. So we could take a motion on this item.
I just want to say one thing. As someone that works downtown, I am so excited when I see the green team out and about cleaning things up. The graffiti response time is incredible, and this new homeless component is really exciting to hear about. So thank you all for your hard work.
Okay. Are we kind of frozen here? There we go.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
I'm kind of going through just the paperwork side of it, and I see our address is on here as well. Does that mean that we are on the hook for this amount of money annually for this too?
We are part of the bid, and so we pay into the bid on properties that we own.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that.
That's interesting. So we don't generally pay property tax, but we pay this.
Right.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And then related item is K, which is an ordinance on final hearing adopting and setting the assessment roll for year 2022-2023 for the downtown bid. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thank you all for coming down. Jane?
I'm Jane Jenkins. I'm the president and CEO of the Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership, and I'd just like to thank all the members of the council for supporting this program to improve our downtown. Echoing what David Wanzer said, we recently hosted the International Economic Development Council in our community. That was 1,200 economic developers from all over the country and Canada, and they were all amazed at the condition and the cleanliness and the appearance of our downtown, and I'm very proud of what we've done. And I'd like to take a minute to thank the city staff. Also, we couldn't do it without their support. We couldn't do it without your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item L, this is the public hearing regarding, L1 is the public hearing regarding the Stockyard City Business Improvement District. And this, I believe, is what Mr. Landbar signed up for.
I'm David Lanham. I reside at 628 Lakeside Circle. I own Delco Diesel Services in the bid. I'm a bid payer, and I've been in the Stockyards area since 1978, and the improvement is, it's an ongoing thing, and I fully support it. We have a great executive director, Debbie Harrison, president, Kelly Payne, and I fully support it, and it's a great area, provides a whole western theme, both city and then much of the areas of the county. So it's a great area, making great improvements. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, that closes the public hearing, which bringing us to L2, resolution adopting and confirming an assessment roll for year 2022-2023 for the Stockyard City Business Improvement District. Could take a motion on that. I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And then related item is found at 11M, an ordinance on final hearing adopting and setting the assessment roll for year 2022-2023 for the Stockyard City Business Improvement District. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we're at N. This is an ordinance to be introduced today, set for a public hearing on October 11th and a potential final hearing on October 25th. This relates to advertising and signs, repealing Article 5 of Chapter 3 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code and amending Chapter 59, etc. This is, as I said, the first of 3 potential meetings discussing this ordinance today is merely introduction, and we have a presentation.
Yes, Lisa Cronister, our Assistant Planning Director, is here. Staff's been working on this for quite some time and working with several different groups, and so it's really trying to refine this into something that works for our community, and so Lisa's going to present the ordinances before you today.
Yes, good morning. Lisa Cronister, Assistant Planning Director, here to tell you about our proposed new sign code. The new sign code is part of our project to update the entire zoning code and other development-related codes we've been working on for the past several years. The purpose of the code update project as a whole is to implement our comprehensive plan, Plan OKC. And the intent of that effort was to improve the efficiency and predictability and the outcomes of development across the city, to make a development easier, the development process easier to administer and to navigate. The project will focus on not only the planning and zoning code, but also will touch the subdivision regulations, the nuisance codes, the drainage codes, and the sign code was always part of this project. We moved it up in order early on in the project. And there are specific Plan OKC policies that talk about signs. There are policies saying that we need to reduce sign clutter, that we need to reduce billboards, that we need to adopt new regulations for signs in general. So the new sign code focuses on the traditional basis of sign regulation. Many of the things that our existing sign code regulates now. Physical characteristics, how big signs are, what they're made of, whether or not they light up, where they are on a site, how many of them are there, and how long they can be there, how long they can light up. To develop the new sign code, we did a lot of outreach with a lot of different interest groups. We met multiple times with the outdoor advertising industry, with sign companies across the city. We met with residents, realtors, artists, because murals are regulated under the sign code, staff and other departments to see what needed to be improved in their work. We met with all of the design review committees and commissions, planning commission several times, and what we heard from all of these groups was that we needed very predictable standards, that we needed to allow for administrative modification to the extent we could, that we needed to improve our code enforcement relative to dilapidated signs, that of all of the community appearance issues, it was dilapidated signs that caught most people's attention, and that we needed to look at how things like landscaping requirements impacted the ability of business and property owners to comply with the sign regulations. So that brings us to our proposed new sign code. The new code is, compared to our old one, is highly graphic and user-friendly. It will result in fewer dilapidated signs because we've improved some code enforcement items that I'll go into more detail in a minute. We've tailored the sign standards. We've streamlined the murals process to include administrative approvals. We've prohibited the use of PUDs and SPUDs to increase sign standards. That's an issue that's been before council several times. We have reduced the size and height of billboards in several districts. We've specified more precise measurement standards that will allow industry and business owners more flexibility in their sign design. So the new code will establish a new Article 16 in Chapter 59, and it will replace Chapter 3, Article 5 in its entirety. So the big picture there is that all of Chapter 3, Article 5 will be replaced with this new article. Again, we're regulating by physical feature only, by describing 6 different types of signs. And a lot of provisions remain, they've just been relocated into the new code. The existing sign code is organized in a lot of text with a lot of paragraphs and subparagraphs and sub-subparagraphs, but the new code uses user-friendly tables where you read across your zoning district on the top, and then elements like size and height and number on the left, and read across the table to find your requirements. And same thing in terms of making it user-friendly and more graphic. All of the regulations are accompanied by photos and illustrations to better describe exactly what our intent is of the signs and their placement on a building or site. One very different thing about the new sign code is our use of street typologies. Street typologies are in the comprehensive plan. That's where they're described. And by organizing our signs along these different street types lets us more easily designate that higher intensity streets, properties on higher intensity streets get bigger, taller, brighter signs. Businesses and properties on lower intensity streets get smaller and fewer signs. Next. So I wanted to highlight a few specific changes because I know these are topics that have come before council very often in the past several years. Next. One is billboards. So the new code, billboards are still allowed in the new code. We have reduced the height and number of signs in several districts. Most existing size, spacing, and by right zoning locations do remain. We've prohibited the use of PUDs or SPUDs to increase billboard and sign standards. A PUD or SPUD can still be used to decrease the requirements, but it can't be used to increase them. Master sign plans. We heard a lot from stakeholders about how allowing just a little bit of administrative flexibility on approvals would help everyone out from having to seek a variance for just a very minimal increase in size or number. So we are proposing a new process for master sign plans that allows the planning director to approve these minimal increases in standards with the submission by the applicant of overall plan and description of all of the signs on their sites. Code enforcement. Again, this is one of the biggest community appearance issues we heard in our outreach, and it was improving code enforcement was a specific Plan OKC policy. We've tightened up definitions of abandon, of what it means to be in good repair, of how long you can be in poor repair before action is taken. And most importantly, we specified that the city has the authority to remove dilapidated signs. This is the same process the council already uses for dilapidated buildings. So owners would be noticed, there would be multiple public hearings before the signs could be removed. Murals. The new code will specifically provide for staff approval for murals. Right now, all murals go to Arts Commission, which can create a delay in the start date. Artists have been asking for years if there's a way to allow more text area. Right now, text area is capped at 10%. The new code has a process by which the applicant can be heard by Arts Commission, and upon the Arts Commission's recommendation, the planning director can authorize additional text area. Attached and freestanding signs, the important point here is that pole signs are still allowed in the code. But we're incentivizing the use of monument signs by specifying that monument signs can be a little bit larger than pole signs can be, a little bit larger in terms of the sign area. Early in our research, we found that the vast majority of business owners are only using a fraction of their allowable text area. So we've reduced all of the allowable text areas that should maintain reasonable sign sizes going forward, but not throw anyone into noncompliance. Then electronic message displays. The new code allows them by right for churches and schools, which are often in residential zoning districts and who often come in seeking approvals just for those signs. But we're protecting the neighborhoods by increasing the distance from the sign to the neighbors and requiring light directing louvers. So again, a recap of the benefits, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one, and I know, I can't remember if we've been through the process of discussing this. My concern is for churches. I can't remember where we landed with that, but churches having to go receive a variance in order for them to build or have a monument, not an EMD sign or a monument sign. So I'm just curious where now churches may fall in this category of them being able to, in a way, streamline this process and not have to go through that.
Yes, now they are, if many churches are located in residential zoning districts and they are specifically allowed to have an EMD.
And that was before, or is that now because of this?
Code.
In the new code. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your work on this. I have two questions, and they're mostly kind of just to understand and clarify. So when you say that this will not allow using SPUDs or PUDs to increase or decrease standards, can you give us an example? Because those cases have been a little bit in the distant memory. So if there's like a example you could give, that would be helpful, I think.
I don't know that I can give one from a specific past case, but so right now can you back up, Mark, to the billboard? So, right now, to have a billboard, you have to be on a certain street type, and your size is capped at 675 square feet. Your height is capped. There is a minimum distance from the next billboard. So if someone were to come in to say, hey, I want to be a little bit closer, I want to be a little bit bigger, I want to be in a different zoning district, I want to be on a different street type, those are things that they would not be able to amend via a PUD.
Okay.
But if they wanted to be smaller or further away,
They can do that.
approve that all day long.
Okay, gotcha. That helps. And then I guess my other question is, so about the process for Arts Commission to approve more percentage of a mural to have wording on it, is there specific language sort of guiding like what helps them make that decision in the update, or is it just sort of dependent, like case by case, what they should be considering?
Right now, it is case by case. We will ask Arts Commission to further develop that criteria.
Gotcha.
So that it is ideally more objective going forward.
Okay, so they would develop some policies that would kind of help direct their, okay, great, thank you.
Can we discuss the enforcement issue? And if you know the steps, that's fine. If not, we can maybe ask someone else. But let's say a citizen identifies a particular sign that they believe is dilapidated, needs to be removed. They call our hotline. It eventually gets over to code enforcement. Then what's the process? Code enforcement notifies the owner, I guess.
The owner is notified. In most cases, I'm told the owner immediately responds to whatever the infraction is. If they don't, then there's a series of notices, a series of fines, and then after a certain time of that, the city can authorize removal of the sign.
But it would come before the city council
Yes.
ultimately before that decision is made. So, so let's say a property owner has been notified. Do they bring the sign back up to, say, original standards? What do they do if they want to pull it out of abandonment status?
Most of it is just to keep it in good repair to the standard it was already approved under. So they don't have to bring it up to the new standard, but if there are dangling wires,
Right.
those need to be clipped. If the sign face is broken or chipped,
Right.
that needs to be repaired. Other than that, it can remain exactly as it is and not be subject to removal.
But if there's signs of rust, for example, on the pole and other types of factors that would indicate an abandonment, and that's whether or not the business itself is still active. I mean, it could be an active business, they've just allowed the sign to fall into disrepair. They've got to bring it up as soon as it's somebody's called in a complaint.
Yes.
Okay. And Chad, you all will pursue that?
Chad Davidson, Code Enforcement. We've talked with Lisa extensively about this whenever they've gone through the rewriting of the code. She's done a great job on it,
Yeah.
by the way.
And excuse me, but I do need to say, I think you all addressed many of the points that we had heard over the past few years from various parties. So thank you for all the efforts with this. Yeah, I'm just focusing on the enforcement side.
Absolutely. That's our plan, is
Yeah.
to, as soon as we start getting those complaints roll in, we're going to start with our enforcement portion of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
And to that point, I just thought about something, especially for some of our businesses that may already be suffering, and this may be an issue for them. What mechanisms are we going to have in place to make sure they have some type of way to have some support? Because clearly it's not cheap to fix these signs. So, and I'm sure even with a dilapidation process, that's going to cost just as much as them to fix it, in some cases, depending on the circumstance of those signs. So that is going to be a concern as far as how we're working with those business owners with that particular sign. Not all, clearly not all, but there will be some that will probably fall through the cracks that we're going to have to figure out how to ensure that there's some type of support for them to have whatever the resources are for them to get those signs fixed. So I'm hoping that in this process as well, that we're working with or establishing a relationship with folks that can be of assistance to these folks who own signs as well.
Any other comments or questions? All right, well, today is, as I said earlier, merely introduction, and we can do that with a motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. This is set for public hearing on October 11th and potential final hearing on October 25th. All right, item O is an ordinance to be introduced today, set for public hearing on the same dates, October 11th and final hearing October 25th, relating to miscellaneous provisions and offenses in Chapter 30 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code related to tobacco or vapor products. Mr. City Manager.
Kalia Fisher with the Municipal Council's office is here to explain the changes that are being made here to get us in compliance or in line with state law changes.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Again, Kalia Fisher, I'm an Assistant Municipal Counselor. Our office has proposed this amendment to City Ordinance Section 30-452, which relates to tobacco and vapor products to essentially bring the city ordinance in line with recent amendments to the state statute. Currently, state statute Title 10A, Section 2-8-224 makes it unlawful for a person under 21 years old to purchase, receive, or possess tobacco, nicotine, and vapor products. With the passage of House Bill 3315, it is still unlawful for persons under 21 to purchase, receive, or possess these products, but the ability to impose a fine has been removed from the state statute. Therefore, our proposed amendment to the city ordinance adds language removing any penalty or fine associated with this unlawful activity, and adds language requiring the confiscation of the tobacco or vapor product to make the ordinance conform with state law. Does anyone have any questions?
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Kalia.
Thank you very much. All right, so we can take a motion to introduce this item. I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously, and this will be set for public hearing on October 11th, final vote on October 25th. This brings us to another ordinance, item 11P, to be introduced today, and this relates to personnel and retirement system, amending the code chapter 40 and creating the deferred compensation board.
Yes, so Regina Story is here with us today. Regina is our administrator for our employee retirement system. Really several years back we started looking at this. This is regarding our 457 and 401 programs that the employee retirement system manages on behalf of the city for our employees. And Regina's going to bring to us some recommendations that we received from a consultant as well as legal consultants about some changes that we make in the program, in the oversight of the program. So I'll let Regina take that.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Regina Story from the Employee Retirement System. As Craig said, the city contracts with the Employee Retirement System to manage its various retirement offerings through one office. All full-time, just to give you a little bit of background, all full-time non-uniformed city employees participate by default into the city's defined benefit plan. But the city also offers an optional 457B plan benefit to all full-time employees and elected officials, and there's an optional defined contribution plan offered to management employees. So while the city's defined benefit plan has had a governing body since its inception, the 457B plan and the defined contribution plans have not. As Craig said, we've had a consultant in the past that evaluated this and made a recommendation to establish that governing body as a best practice for fiduciary oversight. I've been working with the municipal counselor's office, the chief HR officer, and our outside counsel, Cindy Burley. And I have to say Wiley Williams, who's now retired, did the lion's share of the work on this because he was our pension attorney internal. But we've been working on this update to Chapter 40 for quite some months now. If adopted, once the board is created, I do want to disclose that there would be anticipated costs to the city because we do anticipate that professional services would need to be solicited to advise the board. In addition to the board creation in this ordinance change, there is also from our outside counsel, there was a recommendation to add language to update for Secure Act per IRS requirements. And then the Total Rewards Division of HR also updated election and coverage dates for retiree health insurance. So just kind of the highlights, but with that I can take any questions that you may have on it.
Thank you, Regina.
Okay. Well, again, we could take a motion to introduce this ordinance. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, that'll be public hearing October 11th, final hearing October 25th. That brings us to Q1, public hearing regarding the dilapidated structures here listed, except for that previously struck. I do see, there is one here, Councilwoman Nice, that's been deferred a few times. Is that?
Yes, I'd like to defer it again.
Okay.
I'd like to defer it for another month, please.
Okay, so what date would that be, Amy? October 25th?
October 25th? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that sounds right. Okay, we'll go with it.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion to defer item 11Q1C to October 25th. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Is there anyone who's signed up to speak on these items?
No.
All right, we'll close the public hearing and move on to Q2, the resolution declaring that the structures are dilapidated. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Okay. Ward 3, aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, R1 is a public hearing regarding the unsecured structures here listed, except for those previously struck. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
All right, well, we'll close the public hearing then and advance to the resolution found at R2 declaring that the structures are unsecured. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11S is a public hearing regarding the abandoned buildings here listed, except for those previously struck. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
All right, then we'll advance to the resolution found at S2 declaring that the buildings are abandoned. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, 11T1 is a public hearing regarding the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation not to exceed $765,000 for the NOVA project. No one has signed up to speak.
No.
So we could advance to the joint resolution found at T2 approving the allocation. We heard about this at the last meeting, and that holds true for the next several items. So unless there's any comment or question, we could take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11U1 is a public hearing regarding the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation not to exceed $2,010,000 for public sanitary sewer line improvements. Has anyone signed up to speak?
No one's signed up.
They have not, and so we'll advance to the resolution found at U2 approving the allocation, which we can adopt if there's no other comment. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. V1 is a public hearing regarding a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving the allocation of general obligation limited tax bond proceeds and/or GO limited tax investment proceeds in an amount of $2 million for the Fairground Flats Affordable Housing Project. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
They have not. So we look at the resolution then found at V2 approving the joint resolution making the allocation. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. W1 is a public hearing regarding a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation not to exceed $1,080,000 for the Citizen Project. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
They have not, and so we'll look at the joint resolution found at W2 approving the allocation. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, X1 and 2 were deferred, which brings us to Y. This is a resolution directing the city manager or designee to administer the application process to implement and consider any request for extension of salary continuation for additional recovery from an on-the-job injury for up to an additional 6 months for police officers and firefighters. Before I turn it over to him for a short statement, I will say I sort of precipitated this because I finally asked after 4 years of being mayor, why do we have to vote on all these salary continuations? Isn't there a better way? And I think we may have found it. Not a huge time suck on the agenda, but if we can address it in an easier fashion, that was what we wanted to pursue. Mr. City Manager, you'd like to add to that?
Sure, we looked at this with Municipal Counselor's Office and evaluated it with staff and realized, I mean, basically what's happening is going through a normal review process to ensure that it meets the requirements that are there for this salary continuation. We bring it to council. Typically, we don't have a lot of question on that. And so what we did was we're changed it so the council will direct me or one of my designees to manage this process. But it does provide that an employee, if they disagreed with our decision administratively, could still appeal to the council. So it gives them that hearing in front of the council. Very unlikely that we'll see any of those come forward. I did talk to, it affects FOP and IFF members, and so I did talk to both of the union presidents, explain the process, and they're supportive. And so it's just really changing this to make it more administrative, which is really what it was anyway, and we would bring the recommendations to the council. So no other change, but it does give that recourse to members if they, or employees if they have a concern with our administrative ruling.
Okay. If there's no comments or questions, we could adopt the resolution. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman Stonecipher, have you voted? Passes unanimously. What? Todd Stone. Okay, item Z is an amended and reinstated trust agreement and indenture of the Regional Transportation Authority of Central Oklahoma. And I think Jason's going to do a presentation, but I'll just preface it by saying you may have seen the news reports, or perhaps you follow it through Jason, with the withdrawal of some cities that had been a part of the RTA. I think that precipitated sort of a reconstitution of it, and Jason will talk more about that today. But I just want to say from a big picture perspective that Edmond, Norman, and Moore are, Edmond, Norman, and Oklahoma City, not Moore, you'll hear about that in a moment, but Edmond, Norman, and Oklahoma City are a part of this still, and those 3 cities have always been, 90% of the energy behind this, and so it's still full speed ahead and really quite exciting as it proceeds, and definitely something that leaves an important legacy in this community. So with that, Jason, you want to go ahead?
So, good morning, Mayor and Council. Jason Fairbrother, Assistant City Manager and Director of Public Transportation and Parking. Yes, so as the mayor mentioned, the item on the agenda today is an amended and restated trust indenture for the Regional Transportation Authority of Central Oklahoma. And I thought, as far as my comments would go, I might just provide a reminder to council. It was back in 2018 that the original trust indenture was presented to this council, as well as the 6 original member cities. So that was Oklahoma City, Edmond, Norman, Moore, Del City, and Midwest City. And that trust was initially set up so that each member city would have a board member, except for the city of Oklahoma City, which had 2 board members on the RTA, if you will. The other thing that I think is important to point out about the RTA is that it is a separate government entity, if you will, where the member cities are the beneficiary of that trust. And one other thing that the RTA, or I should say one other thing that makes the RTA unique from other transit providers is, right now the RTA is concentrating its efforts on planning and really determining the financial plan for high-capacity transit in the central Oklahoma region. And that's primarily connecting Oklahoma City to Edmond, Norman, and Tinker, right? And so those high-capacity transit plans are ongoing. And with the remaining member cities, it's necessary to restate that trust, and or I should say restate that trust indenture and make adjustments for the other cities' withdrawal. So what you have before you is again, a revised trust indenture that really primarily just strikes any references to the cities that have withdrawn. And then it changes the board composition slightly. So still have a 7-member board, but basically Edmond will have 2 board members, Norman will have 2 board members, and then Oklahoma City will have 3 board members. So as far as next steps go, this indenture is being presented to each of the member cities. We expect to have optimistically council approval from the member cities this fall, and we'll be looking forward to the appointment of those other directors to the RTA board. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Jason, I've got one, and if you can speak to it.
Sure.
Those 3 cities that dropped out, I would suspect it's mainly due to financial concerns in terms of their commitment towards this. Is that your understanding?
Yes, I think long-term financial impacts, particularly because at this point in time, the enabling legislation only allows the RTA sales tax as a potential revenue source. Mm-hmm. And so I know that that was a concern for some of the cities, I think primarily for all of the cities that withdrew. There may have been other things, but I know that was one item that came up.
And was that a decision made by the trust that they would look solely at a sales tax for their source of revenue?
It was really determined, obviously, by the state legislature. That's what they approved. Now, early on, as the enabling legislation was being moved forward, and I know we worked with the chamber, many stakeholders, that was really the primary source that was considered and what was approved.
And I would suspect that rapid transit between Norman, Oklahoma City, and Edmond is looking towards something like a rail system, a train.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The progress the RTA has made, the RTA has actually made significant amount of progress in a relatively short period of time from a planning perspective. Uh-huh. In fact, the locally preferred alternative has been determined for that north-south corridor, and it is commuter rail sharing that BNSF railroad right-of-way, and negotiations and discussions with BNSF are ongoing and to this point have been productive. The other thing I think is certainly worth mentioning is the partnership with Tinker. The RTA recognizes Tinker as obviously the region's largest employer. And so even with the withdrawal of Del City and Midwest City, the RTA is focused on and continuing to study light rail or BRT options out to the east to connect to Tinker. And Tinker's been a great partner. They're currently in the process of developing a transportation plan, if you will, for the base itself.
Right.
And so the RTA has had a seat at the table, if you will, for really many, if not all of those discussions.
In terms of the transportation between Oklahoma City and Tinker Air Force Base, is the focus on connecting to the north side of the base versus the south side of the base?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And although it the final destination, if you will, hasn't been approved, really what's being considered right now is the north side and specifically that 29th and Douglas area.
It makes sense. I mean, and the traffic, because I get to drive out there at times, can be very full, and it just clogs up everything, whether you're looking at 29th Street, I-40, or some other alternative way to get into Oklahoma City. But there are some rails currently in place, aren't there, on the south side that run parallel to, say, I-240?
Yeah, there are, and early on, we actually did look at that spur, if you will. If it's the one that I think you're describing, it basically kind of dead ends into the base, if you will. And really, when we, I think, had some of those discussions initially with the base, can't remember all the details, but they weren't really interested in pursuing that. There may have been a conflict with the railroad as well, but all that to say, the discussions that we've had with Tinker, they've been great partners, and I know at this point their preference is that Douglas area. So that's really what we've focused on since I don't know, within the last year for sure.
And is there any rail that serves the north side of the base at this time that could connect to Oklahoma City, or that would require all new rail?
Well, there is some rail that comes in from the north side of the base. However, it is located in a zone that the base prefers not to have any activity in. It's like, I'm not remembering the technical term, but it's basically like a flyover type zone, and they don't want to have any more activity than they have to have.
So BRT may be the initial solution.
Yeah, and so I think BRT is probably the initial solution. Again, it will kind of obviously be up to the RTA board. But I do know one of the things the RTA board is really, really adamant about and have took a pretty strong position on is if BRT is that solution out east, that it is designed in such a way that it could be converted to light rail. So that could be areas of dedicated right-of-way, it could be acquiring right-of-way, but they really have a long-term vision on that and want to make sure anything that's constructed, if it's a rubber tire service, if you will, can be converted to rail.
You're not suggesting a new road would be built, are you?
No.
Okay.
It'd be using existing corridors, and primarily what's being looked at right now is two options. So it would be Shields to 29th to Douglas. The other option that's being considered is Reno to Eastern to 29th to Douglas. And of course, with Eastern, you pick up the development and the First Americans Museum. And I also got to give a lot of credit to our city departments and all the stakeholders that have been involved. The RTA, we manage a lot of that RTA, meaning Embark manages a lot of that RTA administrative business, if you will. And we regularly schedule not only outreach meetings with the stakeholder cities, but also technical work group meetings with the staff of the member cities. And so our planning department, for example, has contributed immensely to the work that's been done, particularly considering the corridors that impact Oklahoma City.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Oh, and by the way, Jason, maybe you said this, but the voting rights on the board are not equal to the membership of the board. Did you say that? Did you talk about that?
I didn't really talk about the voting structure. So there is, in the trust indenture, there are certain votes that require a weighted vote to pass, 67% weighted vote. And those are the substantial items, as you would expect, such as pledging assets, approving a budget, major service changes, these kinds of things. And the way the board was initially structured and with the restated indenture, it requires for those type of things a 67% weighted vote, which means that it really takes, for example, if all 3 Oklahoma City board members voted a certain way, it would take at least 1 additional board member from a participating city to carry that weighted vote. And that's consistent with how the indenture was initially set.
And likewise, the participating cities couldn't do that, couldn't pass something without an Oklahoma City vote.
Exactly. And so that's trying to keep that balance there and that collaborative spirit of moving transit forward with different jurisdictions all involved.
Yeah, because in theory now, we're outnumbered by the collective other cities, but they can't, with a simple majority, really accomplish anything significant.
That's right, when it comes to the weighted vote, yep.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, so this is a amended and reinstated trust agreement and indenture for consideration. If there's any other comments or questions. If not, we can take a motion. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11AA1 is what we believe to be the last resolution approving the request for salary continuation for Lieutenant Zachary Moore while he continues to require rehabilitation. An executive session is not requested. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item AB is an executive session on advice of the municipal councilor to receive confidential communications regarding Elmore v. Chavez in the city of OKC. So we could take, Michael Washington has signed up to speak, but he is not present. We could take a vote to go into executive session, which we'll handle at the end of our other business. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. As I said, we'll handle that at the end of our other business, which brings us to item AC, which is deferred. Finally, item 12, comments from council. Ward 1.
I just wanted to say thank you to the city here, as well as to our citizens, for being able to be a part of the dedication and the ribbon cuttings of the lower half of Scissortail Park, and getting to share that with Councilman Stonecipher, Councilwoman Nice, and Hammond, and Councilman Cooper. It was a great day, and it's an amazing time to get to watch the citizens come out and just kind of get to be a part of it, but to already see them kind of just jump right into the park and start utilizing everything that was available was really kind of cool. So I just wanted to say, if you haven't had the opportunity to get out there, please do. It's a remarkable park. It's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort from a lot of people around this city, including city staff, to get it to where it is. And I don't know that a thank you is enough for what they've done, but thank you. So.
Thank you. Ward 2.
Mayor, would it be okay if we continued along the horseshoe and came back to me? Because mine's going to take a moment. I have some questions for staff. Would that be,
I guess.
Thanks. I just
All
don't
right.
want to take up everyone else's. I'm guessing.
Does that mean
they have
everybody
some.
can leave after they're done, or what is it? All right.
I mean, they can do whatever they want to do, but.
All right, Ward 6.
I'd just like to, yes, echo the comments of Councilman Carter. The Lower Scissortail Park opening was just very energizing and exciting to see. Got to participate in a few activities to kind of, bless, I suppose, some of the different amenities that will be available there, and really excited to see how folks in the area will use it and have an opportunity to get out and connect with the community. I also like to thank South Rotary Club as well as Del City Rotary. They partnered to host an event at South Rotary Park over the weekend that was a bike rodeo. They gave away helmets and safety flags, reflective items for kiddos, and partnered with the Oklahoma Bicycle Society to train young kids, I think 4 and up, on bike safety. Got to test some of their skills and do some riding around tracks and things that they set up, and it was just a really neat community event. It was really neat to see a lot of parents with their kids out on their bicycles, getting some of those skills as well as just some of those items. I really want to thank our city staff as well. We had some planning staff out there with the Watch For Me OKC campaign to hand out some reflective materials and information about bike walk safety, and I don't know, it was really lovely to see that kind of, again, I guess, activation of a park space and bringing folks out in the community to connect and get to know each other. So really want to appreciate those Rotary clubs for hosting that and hoping that'll become a regular event in the area. So thanks.
Ward 7.
Thank you. I just want to give a couple of thank yous. And first is to our city staff for being a participant in all of our community folks who came out for the town hall that we had on the 15th at the Science Museum Oklahoma. And special thank you to Science Museum Oklahoma for staying late. They were so gracious to accommodate everyone and just entertain the kids that were able to just run around and play and just enjoy the facility that they have for some of those who may not have been there before. So very grateful that they said yes for us to be a part and give information out to the community. I also want to say thank you to the folks with Scissortail Park for the invitation. It was a lot of fun to be there for the luncheon, but I think that one of the most important pieces was the fact that we got to walk away with a little memento of honey that had been grown and made from the upper park. So that's the beauty of where we've transitioned from the upper park to the lower park. So to be able to experience that and to have just some honey to say, look how far we've grown, enjoy, is bittersweet. Like that thing. And also, right after that, went to Metro Tech. They had a ribbon cutting for their wellness center. So immediately after left the luncheon, went to Metro Tech to experience their opening. Very grateful for their work that they're doing to provide health and wellness for our residents within Northeast Oklahoma City, but overall for the Northeast Oklahoma City area. And also to the Oklahoma City Chums, they were so gracious. Myself and a couple of other women were honored for an I'm Every Woman award, and I'm just very grateful. And I know there are a couple of women that work with our city. So I just wanted to extend my gratitude for them to be so gracious to honor me as well as other women that are doing work within our city. And I just want to express my high disappointment in the First Christian Church being demolished yesterday. I am gravely disappointed, and I really believe that as an entity, we could have done something better to prevent that. That's just how I feel about it. You know, whether it's right or wrong or indifferent, I just feel as if with that type of historic place that as a city, we could have done a little bit more to protect the interest of that historic place. And I know one of the things that a couple of us have continuously been tagged on are the concerns for the Oklahoma County Detention Center. And I just want to continue to express, clearly that we are watching and getting updates of the folks who have been admitted from a city offense, and also understanding the time frame that they are released. So definitely saddened of the last death that we had, because another death is clearly too many for these types of facilities. But I know there are some things that we as a city can probably look at further. I'm not going to say do better, because we're doing the things that we need to do as a city is concerned for those types of things when we have to take someone to that detention center. But maybe there's another look that we can look at and make sure and ensure those concerns are being met. And then I also want to make sure, Mr. Kinney, I want to get with you. I had also an email that came about a case that's still pending with Daniel Holtzclaw, and residents who are concerned that something could happen to where our city is not taking the initiative we need to protect our city or our residents who have come forward with those complaints and have been vindicated in some ways for their suffering. So I just want to continue to make sure we're keeping those things at the forefront of our conversation. So with that, I also want to continue to say I am still disappointed in that appointment for the Human Rights Commission. based on the fact that, again, someone who was adamantly against this commission being established in the first place is now sitting on this commission. That is, I have no words to describe how I feel about that. I am mortified that this was allowed to happen, and that that someone else could not have filled that space that comes from the community or that same area that actually has a vested interest in understanding or being a part of what a Human Rights Commission can do to improve a city. So I'm going to continue to speak my disdain about that commission appointment.
Thank you, Your Honor. On October 11th this year, we're going to have a public hearing, and we had a presentation on it to date, and that's about our new sign ordinance with our sign regulations. Something like this comes along very rarely. If you look at Plan OKC that was adopted in July of 2015, the last time we had tinkered with the comprehensive plan was in 1977. And one of the things that Plan OKC asked us to do was to look at signage. And during that period of time, since Plan OKC, an award-winning comprehensive plan, passed, we started looking at signage. And a lot of people came together, interested citizens, businesses, the sign industry itself, all came together and worked on this. And I know Lisa Chronister gave us a presentation today, but I wanted to personally thank Lisa, Jeff Butler, Kenny Jordan, Laura McDivitt, and Mark White, our consultant. I'll be interested to see what happens in the public hearing. A lot of time has been spent on this. I think it's a good product. I will mention that along the way, we had the town of Gilbert and the city of Austin, which were two United States Supreme Court cases that came up and impacted this whole process, but we got through it all, and I think we're ready to present a good product. Secondly, just echoing on everybody else's comments, when I was driving to work on Saturday, I decided to go look at Lower Scissortail just to see if people were there. It was early in the morning. Got out of my car. The spin class was full. The pickleball courts were full. There were tons of people up on the southern mound taking pictures of downtown Oklahoma City. It was electric. It was energetic. It was fun. And so the reason I'm mentioning this is to encourage people, if you haven't been there, please go soon. It's outstanding.
Thank you. Okay, now we have, yeah, right. I guess apparently we've been warned to settle in. All right, Ward 2.
Thank you. And I will ask for everyone's patience as we walk through a devastating moment as it relates to the First Christian Church, and grief, that's the emotion I feel so strongly right now, is grief. And City Manager, whoever we could invite up to kind of walk us through briefly, because I think the residents need to know how this happened. That's the question people are asking, is how. And so I'd like to make sure in a public forum they hear how this happened and what was preventing the city of OKC from preventing this demolition, and what we must prioritize going forward in the protection of remaining historic landmarks.
Sure. So Rick Wickenkamp, David Adcock from Development Services are here. They actually manage the permitting process, so it's just following the guidelines and requirements after legal review that we would do with a permitting process. But I'll let them respond to the events, what occurred, how it was filed, what happened on Friday, and then what was approved on Sunday. On Monday. Kenny may weigh in also from the legal perspective, because they did do a careful review of previous actions to make sure that everything was in order to move forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Rick Wickenkamp, Director of Development Services, and David Adcock is here. He's the Director of the Development Center. So Midwest Wrecking made an application for a demolition permit on Friday. The Development Center knew that this was a sensitive building. Council had had action and conversation about it in the past. The community had interest in it. So we had a note in our system that would flag that property to make sure that it got reviewed more deeply in the event that a permit was applied for, in which it was applied for. So staff looked at the application, the requirements, or any sort of impediment to issuing that permit Friday and really through the weekend, and we consulted with the municipal counselor's office, and there was no legal impediment for us to issue that permit. So we came to that final determination over the weekend. So Monday morning, through contact with Midwest Wrecking, we issued the permit.
And I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Had it not been for, you know, let me just also say, I've been in therapy for 10 years. I go to see a therapist once a month to manage my anxiety and my depression. Had it not been for 10 years worth of therapy right now, I would be an emotional wreck on this issue. And so I appreciate everyone's patience as I try and walk through this in a way, because it's not just me that's grieving right now. I would say a majority of Ward 2 is grieving, and I think it's probably true in the city outside of my boundaries for Ward 2. And I would say to people who don't understand the grief, that's fine. That's fine. But what I would ask for you in that moment is to hear the grieving people. Hear them. And don't deny the emotions that someone is feeling. Someone's feeling it, it's what they're feeling. Don't tell them that they're not grieving. Don't tell them they're not sad. Don't tell them they're not angry. That is how they feel. You can't control other people's emotions. And I have to say that because I've been very disappointed by some of the reactions by people who don't understand the grief. So I'm asking the people who don't understand the grief to have a moment of empathy. Put yourself in the shoes of the people who are grieving, who are feeling that emotion right now. Feel their pain. You don't have to agree with it, but listen to them. Be a friend and a neighbor as they grieve. Be human, for God's sakes. So, just wanted to say that first, but had it not been for Councilman Stonecipher and I a few years ago setting in motion those initial protections during the deal with Crossings and First Christian, there wouldn't have been even anything in the system on Friday to flag it. Am I right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. This would have been demoed Friday probably had we not had that. And then it wasn't enough. Okay, so whoever would like to weigh in from there. Legal, yeah.
Sure, the process was they applied for the permit Friday, and then Randall had to identify that we did have that MOU in 2019 between the city Crossings and also the First Christian Church. That's provided that if the sale between Crossings and First Christian Church fell through, then they had to serve notice on the city clerk that had happened. As soon as that agreement was terminated, at that point, the city had 30 days when it could have reinstituted the application to designate it as a historic landmark. But once that 30 days ran, the agreement, the restrictions on them taking action were removed. And that was actually in August of 2019 is when that happened. So there weren't any, all they had to do was meet the building code as far as applying for a demolition permit. Those were the only requirements. So as soon as they applied for it, even though there was a hold on there, the hold was erroneous because of the agreement had expired. Therefore, they were entitled to the permit legally entitled to the permit on Friday. So there's really nothing that could have been done if something, the city had tried something, they would have gone to court and won and gotten the permit anyway. So essentially, to answer your other question that you posed, all that can really be done to protect other historic structures would be to have them identified, and the HP Commission or Planning Commission or City Council initiate a designation that they're historic landmarks. That's
And that action doesn't prevent demolition. It just adds process to the request and the review for demolition.
It doesn't totally prevent demolition, but they have to go to the HP Commission and get a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition. And then if that's turned down, they can appeal that. I forget whether that's to the council now or it's still to the Board of Adjustment.
And then I also want to clarify here as well, if a private property owner objects to designation for their building being historic preservation or landmark, that triggers a supermajority vote on this council to make it, to designate it. So am I correct?
Yes.
And I mention that because I want the public to understand. So I learned about this late into the week, and I did not learn about it on Friday when it happened. Yeah, good, that's the right reaction. I did not learn about it that day, but thankfully later in the week in City Manager Freeman, and I really appreciate you reaching out, and I spent late hours with him trying to figure out what I could bring to bear to save this building and to stop it. And what I learned was that because of a previous vote that I was against, that change that triggered a super vote majority to designate something HP, I knew there was not enough votes on this council to do anything. And that is a tragedy, in my opinion. So, Kenny, I really appreciate, I don't want this just to be a moment of grief, a eulogy, though it will be a bit of that. But Kenny, and planning and residents, I need your help. Identify those landmarks then in Ward 2. Identify them, email them to me. Email them to ward2@okc.gov. Identify them, maybe I've missed some. Identify them, help community protect itself. And let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. Let's start now. Let's start now. Right now. Let's commit to that. Ward2@okc.gov. If there is a historic property in this ward about which you have concerns in its demolition, I can't promise you, but we can at least try. You miss every shot you don't take. So that would be my ask of Ward 2, and then I'd like to have a meeting with planning because I'm guessing they have some buildings they have identified. I would also ask this council, many of you have lived in Ward 2 or you've shopped there. If there are places in my ward that speak to you in preservation, let's make this be a moment of action. Let's learn in this grief is my ask. Councilwoman, I feel like you're going to say something?
I just have sort of a technical question. Thank you for picking up my cues, I guess. Because one of the things that I was hearing and sort of seeing from just some of the pictures and some of the people who were tagging me on different comments and things is it didn't appear there was any sort of barrier in the demolition and that there was debris and different things falling into the street. So I guess from my knowledge, and what are the requirements when there's a demolition as far as like securing the area so that things aren't falling into sidewalks, roadways, right. Just safety as well? Because that seems to be, I think some of the frustration that I'm hearing in that grief is that it feels very sneaky because there was no sort of even visual notice, and from a safety standpoint, it just seems like the perception is that they're trying to skirt some safety requirements so that there's not a visual cue that something might be happening. So any insight you all can provide, I think also might be helpful for for folks who have been reaching out and asking questions, because I do not know the answer.
Okay. Yeah, good morning, Mayor, Council. David Adcock, Development Center Manager. To answer that question, really, it's the same as for construction. The permit holder is required to secure their site. There's many ways to do that, and we really operate then on if it becomes an issue. Matter of fact, we got the calls regarding there were debris. We went out and looked. It was either cleaned up already or, we didn't see anything. So that's the way it's handled.
Let me also say, am I forgetting a process question? Is there anything right now that's on anyone's mind when it comes to the process part? I feel like I was able to get us there through legal and Rick. Let me also say that as I learned about this, I wasn't just trying to do HP protections. I was trying to figure out how we could use economic alliance, how we could use TIF, whatever I could. This was like my last ditch. I tried. And my final try was to connect with the legal team representing the church. And the legal team happened to be out of the country. And I teach Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 10 a.m. And I had texted this person saying, let's talk, let's try and get together. I wake up, talk to that person, yeah, I'll get you in a room together with the church. I hang up that phone to the news that the church had come down. So I don't even know how to feel about that, except for such a missed opportunity. So I saw it come down, as so too did the rest of my ward. So just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody. Okay, so there was a couple other actions here that I would like some help on. One, I spoke with, and he said I could say this, I spoke with Jonathan Russell yesterday, who currently owns the Gold Dome. That is heavy on my heart and mind right now, is the Gold Dome. I can't promise that we're gonna protect it, but we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. And in that fight with us, he says, is Jonathan. He now is the sole owner, and he wanted me to make sure everyone knows that. He's no longer got the whole team. It's him. And he wants to sit with us. It's right there in Councilwoman Hammond's ward. Mayor wants to sit with you. Planning in the Asian district, because they have an interest in it. They'd love to see it become a cultural community center. My understanding is there's still people who'd like to see it be a venue of some sort. I might have my opinions on which one of those I prefer, but first and foremost is its preservation and its rehabilitation. That to me, it is the most important part of that. And again, I can't promise it, I just know that Jonathan is a willing partner. We have someone who wants to sit with us. And that was him calling me yesterday. And to receive that call while I was sitting in the First National Building staring at the Skirvin, which is right by where the city's very first LGBT-friendly business was, Bishop's Tap Room in the 1920s, it's just washing all over me. All of this is washing all over me right now, the history, the grief. But that's an action thing right now for us, is getting Jonathan in a room with the Asian District, with Mayor, with Councilwoman Hammond, and we can see what we can do. And he's a willing partner, and so too is the Asian District. I don't know what this venue person is talking about, but okay, sit with us, let's talk. We've got to preserve this church. The reason why the church brings me such grief for it to come down, and this is part of just the eulogy, and I actually have this written down here, but 27 years ago, when OKC's first Jewish counselor, the late Mark Schwartz, represented Ward 2, Ward 2's iconic First Christian Church at Walker and Northwest 36 became a sanctuary following the OKC bombing. And it transformed overnight into what our Oklahoma Gazette describes as, quote, a command center for grieving families, journalists, and rescue workers. Describing Schwartz, who served 1987 to 1998, the Oklahoman credits him, quote, with helping pass a 1989 public safety sales tax used to hire additional police and fire and upgrade equipment, all of which would prove critical in the immediate aftermath of the 1995 bombing. That is why that building matters so much to me. That is why that building matters so much to so many in Ward 2. That is why many of us are grieving. And again, I understand not everyone shares in that grief. I would just ask you to be a good listener over the next few days. Just be that person. Be that human being. As the first openly queer council person on council, I know white supremacist list. It's Jewish folk, it's queer people, it's black and brown people. There's a solidarity for me in that moment of knowing that my predecessor, the first openly Jewish counselor, played such a pivotal role in reuniting grieving families in that church. And I also understand that the church had structural things that made it difficult to redevelop. I understand that. But I also know that Crown Heights, a lot of their residents would love to have seen that redeveloped and that whole stretch of land, and this would be my challenge. I don't know what's coming. They haven't told me what's coming. No one has told me anything about what's coming. I would hope that they're listening to the surrounding neighborhoods, Crown Heights, Central Park, Edgemere, because Crown Heights residents tell me that they have a need for their seniors to have housing adjacent to Crown Heights. A lot of them grew up in Crown Heights as children, but now they live in two-story homes that they don't feel as comfortable walking up those stairs as they age into their golden years. And they would love to see that slice of land become senior housing, community-driven senior housing. And I suspect a lot of people in Edgemere feel similarly, and probably people in Central Park. We have a housing crisis, and I would hope, though I can't force the private sector over there to respond to that, I would hope they hear them. And so in this public forum, I wanted, as their elected representative, to speak their needs into a public forum. Those are their community needs. That's my community's needs. Housing, senior housing, right there. Can't promise it, can't force them, but what I will promise Ward 2 is that heading into the next bond package, I will fight tooth and nail for more housing to meet the needs I know not just exist in Crown Heights, but Military Park, Denniston Park, Skyline, you name it. Housing, that's a crisis all across my ward. It's all across the city. So I will do my best there. But for now, just know our eyes are on the Gold Dome. We will do what we can, and I want to thank Jonathan for reaching out to me. I want to thank the mayor for reaching out to me yesterday, which was funny because then Jonathan called while I was on the phone with him walking home. So I grieve with you, Ward 2, and now let's turn that grief into some action. So thank you. One more thing, not about the First Christian. I do want to say, I share some of the concerns about the Human Rights Commission and some of the appointment. Thank you both for speaking, by the way, and thank you, Kenny, for your comments, and City Manager. I share a lot of the concerns that I heard today about some of the appointments to the Human Rights Commission from folk who might not agree with its existence, and I might have voted no were it not for I could not keep my eyes off of my particular appointee who will represent a community, the Asian district, Asian community across the city, that I had to go speak at the Methodist Church in Ward 2 in the aftermath of historic shootings in Georgia because people were saying that Asian folk were responsible for the coronavirus. I have grieved with that community, I have healed with that community, and now my representative is going to be bringing voice to a community that has long been marginalized, underrepresented, unheard. Not only will they speak alongside the Asian community, but queer representation, women, young people, they have an intersection of backgrounds there. And I'm excited to see what they bring to that conversation. They also bring a policy work background, and that's important too. So it's not just about identity, it's about your acts, it's about your works. And so that's why, though I shared the concerns I heard from Councilor Nice, and I do, and I hear them, I just thought it was also important for me to be that yes vote for Cindy today. So, and I thank her for her service. The park's great, and that was fun. Thanks for sharing in that. It was neat. I know. It's just heavy, y'all. It's just heavy, but we'll get through it together, and thank you.
Councilman, just one quick thing on Gold Dome to just, what? Yeah, you. Just to sum up Gold Dome, why it's so different. One, as you said, the owner wants to save it. Two, it's in a design district, so it doesn't go through a 10-minute process. It would go through weeks of public process if the owner wanted to demolition it. And three, there's a lot more, I think, political will to do something. I've had countless meetings about Gold Dome in the last 4 years, and I think everybody that would have to be involved in that conversation at the Alliance or at the city and here on the council is certainly attuned to that and is interested, obviously has made no commitments, but definitely very interested in hearing proposals. So I'm very optimistic about that. And yes, I mean, to the extent that yesterday's events channel people's energy towards Gold Dome, great, because that energy needs to be there.
No, I appreciate what you said, particularly about the extra layers of kind of protection that, or at least delay. And I'll just let everyone know, and you saw it on Councilwoman Hammond and Tune Nguyen's respective Instagram pages, but we had a tour with the Asian District last Tuesday and with Economic Alliance, and I really want to thank them for joining us. Embark, planning, thank you to council staff for arranging that, but we're all, we did a walking tour of Classen, and we're trying to make sure that the Asian District has a voice in the direction of what redevelopment of this historic boulevard looks like, and the Gold Dome came up in that conversation. So I just really want to thank everyone for their coordination on that. So, and thank you again, Mayor. So.
Okay, if we're done here, we have item 13, citizens to be heard, and we have 3 who have signed up to speak. Michael Washington is not present, so Guy Peters.
Okay, first off, I wasn't prepared to speak about the church and everything, but James, I thank you for bringing that up. That's very important, as I see many things dwindle in my lifetime. Founders Tower, Space Needle, that building. I always comment to other people about the Space Needle, how I miss it, and how they paved Paradise and put up a parking lot. So I know that's kind of a thing, but I hope you afford me a little bit more time than the 3 minutes, but I won't keep it past that. But I was prepared to speak about 3136 Southwest 28th Street. At 1 o'clock, we had a fire. Over the past 2 years, this has been brought up in the meeting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I've got a list of Action Center reports, 7 pages long on this one piece of property. Yes, I'm getting the Neighborhood Alliance ready. I'm doing that, but I'm asking the city to help me out. I know there's stuff that's coming down the pipe, and I try to be patient. But my neighbor to the east of that house has sustained damage to his house. And now my neighbor has to give up his time to fix that. I sent you pictures just now, time-stamped on what I saw before I rushed over here because, Mayor, I heard you talking really fast and everything, so you're ready to get out of here and everything on my way up here. But I would like to see this be a city issue instead of a Ward 6 issue. Mr. Stonecipher, a city issue. Ms. Nice, Mr. Greenwell, empty chair. Simpson, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Stone, empty chair. Barbara Young, James Cooper, Bradley Carter. I'd like this to be a city issue because it affects every part of this city.
30 seconds, please.
Westgate Market, Barbara Young. OKC Plaza, Latina, Todd Stone. Northwest Expressway, Bradley Carter, in council. Quail Springs Marketplace, Mark Stonecipher. Bricktown, Ms. Nice. Penn Park Shopping Center, Mr. Greenwell. Belle Isle Shopping. I deliver tax money to each one of your districts and spend my hard-earned money in your district, in your wards, I should say. I'm sorry. And the fact that people are not being, I know it takes time to address the issue of people having challenges in their life and everything like that. But we need to aggressively find a way to, one, clean up the city, be there on the weekends when people are spending their money at these centers and being knocked on the door, say, hey, you got this and everything. I'm not insensitive to the fact,
Mr.
people have
Peters.
issues, but I do want to see people out there on the weekends when people are spending their money and littering and everything. Have you ever been there on a Monday on these areas?
Mr. Peters, I let you go a minute over. You're going to
I
have
know,
to wrap it up.
but I'd rather the city take a look at these areas afterwards, because we talked about during this council meeting this morning, how clean these other areas are. Monday, take a look at the areas and stuff and find out how trashed up these areas are, these shopping areas are. And let's do something about it. Let's afford this homeless alliance and everything out here on the weekends instead of saying Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Thank you. Sasha Tepa Della Nova Macron.
Good morning, Mayor Holt, City Council, City staff, and members of the public. My name is Sasha Macron, and I'm here to raise awareness of September being designated as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Holt for signing a proclamation in the beginning of the month to proclaim the month of September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Oklahoma City. This makes a great difference, and it matters more than you can imagine. I would like to read a few sections of the proclamation. Childhood cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children, with 1 in 285 children in the United States being diagnosed by their 20th birthday. The average age of diagnosis is 6 years old compared to 66 years of age in adults diagnosed with cancer. 80% of childhood cancer patients are diagnosed late and with metastatic disease. And in 2018 alone, 47 children per day were diagnosed with cancer in the United States, and approximately 40,000 children are on active treatment at any given time. And in the last 20 years, only 4 new drugs have been approved by the FDA to specifically treat childhood cancer. Over 50 years ago, we landed on the moon, but since then, not a lot has been done to address childhood cancer treatments. We haven't come up with a lot of new medications, and in fact, a lot of the medicines that we use nowadays to treat pediatric cancer are designated for adults. We need more treatments and more cures that are specifically targeted for children and that are more efficient and less toxic. The treatments that we use nowadays are so toxic that oftentimes it's the treatment that could kill a pediatric cancer patient more than the disease itself. In fact, when a child starts a new chemo, parents are asked to sign a waiver accepting all the side effects up to and including death. And only 4% of all the national federal funds that we spend for cancer treatment are specifically targeted to children. And every day, 7 children in the United States alone pass away from pediatric cancer. That's almost 5 average schools per year. And every day, 2 classrooms are diagnosed with pediatric cancer. I think we can do much better. Right now, a lot of the funds that are used for research are raised privately by parents and families and supporters, but as a nation, we can do much better. And I would like to invite everyone to be aware of this issue and to raise awareness, and if you're wondering what you can do, you could let your decision makers that there is an issue with that, and you could write your representatives and decision makers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes citizens to be heard. We do have executive session on the item previously voted on, item 11AB, and we'll be back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just need one more. So close.
I guess it didn't work.
No, we need one more. But just like put your foot in. All right, we have returned from executive session and we have no further business. We are adjourned.